When I grew up, I was going to be a doctor, a pediatrician to be specific, because I felt that doctors had superpowers and I wanted to heal children. I now have the best job in the world, and I get to work with talented, innovative, fun-loving 15 to 18-year-old young adult learners. It is my job to help them to achieve their dreams and aspirations, to become self-sustaining, productive members of society. WISE 2009 states, literacy is, in reality, the cornerstone of student achievement for any student in any grade. See, literacy is embedded in social context. To be literate goes far beyond reading and writing, but deals with being cultured, having knowledge and competencies. According to Elkins and Loop, they need to abandon the views that students in middle and high school come from elementary schools being able to read and write, and instead work to establish school policies and collaborative practices that would enable all teachers to be more effective in developing high-level literate practices in all students, in all curriculum areas, and in their wider lives. Teachers need to be aware of the fact that students do not come with the same level of primary discourses. Although this might be obvious to some of us, our lessons still reflect that all our students are on the same level. In addressing the students that come to school with minimal discourse, it is up to us as educators to make the structures of secondary school-based discourse explicit. In my opinion, it is the effective distribution of acquisition and learning in the classroom that will make students successful. We need to use methodologies that uses explanations and analysis to develop meta-knowledge and highlight the need to apprentice students by scaffolding their growing abilities through demonstration, allowing them to be active participants in their own learning. These facilitating factors do not exist for many students. Our job then as educators is to investigate how we can improve and promote classroom discourse. Research by Fang and Kottman takes literacy a step further to suggest that teaching literacy is not sufficient, but calls for a shift from teaching generic literacy strategies to teaching discipline-specific language and literacy practices. See, literacy practices are always evolving, and we acquire new ways to address the needs of our 21st century learners. A disciplinary approach emphasizes the specialized knowledge and abilities possessed by those who create, communicate, and uses knowledge within each of the disciplines. See, we need to reconceptualize the relationship between language, literacy, and content. They are not only fundamental, but must be recognized as equal partners in disciplinary learning and socialization. These reasons emphasize the rationale for teachers to teach the literacy of their discipline. As a mathematics education teacher for over 18 years, I have come to recognize how language and context shape the understanding of mathematics. We need to start recognizing the importance of literacy instruction in the content areas across all disciplines. It is crucial for us to create a body of teachers who are equipped to engage students in the specific writing practices required to compose the required text of the subject. Quite a number of teachers are reluctant to this strategy, simply because they do not feel that they are well qualified, and focusing on literacy will will take up a lot of time and reduce the time needed to teach content. Although difficult, it can work. We can begin by cohorting teachers by content areas to address the literacy demands per the specific discipline. We can bring together literacy teacher educators and content area teacher educators to collaborate and formulate new strategies that would directly address the specific and highly specialized discipline of each subject. Teachers will engage students in the specific writing practices required to compose the required text of the subject or field. Teachers will augment the use of materials with support for literacy. Teachers will integrate the use of the materials into long-term frameworks to develop concepts and literacy learning simultaneously. See, there is a case for disciplinary literacy in the classroom. The fundamental idea of disciplinary literacy is that each discipline has its own rules and ways of using language. It is imperative that we strive to create mathematicians by teaching them to read in the ways mathematicians do. In response to the diversity in classroom, teachers need to be aware of the similarities and differences that exist among their students in the 21st century classrooms. According to Ladson-Billings, culturally relevant pedagogy is a pedagogical approach that draws on the cultural characteristics, experiences, and perspectives of students as conduits for teaching them more effectively. The goals of culturally relevant and culturally responsive pedagogy are students have academic success, students and teachers have cultural competence, and students develop critical consciousness. Some students come with several differences, namely culture, religion, life experiences, gender, sexuality, disability, and different socioeconomic backgrounds. It is imperative that we seek ways to address these differences in the classroom if we are to bridge the gap between primary and secondary discourse and improve test scores. Learn the dynamics of the students in the classroom and make the pedagogies contextually relevant. Get to know the students' cultural background and design lessons that will build on their capabilities. Oftentimes, students become frustrated with school because they feel that they lack the relevant academic skills and that the structures of school only cater to the privileged students. As teachers, it is our job to prove students that they are literate. Have them engage in lessons that are relevant and build on what they already know. Provide them with the forum to write what they know or what is important to them. Have them make meaning of music, TV shows, articles that are important to them, proving they are indeed literate. Students engaging in topics of interest generally have higher achievement in those topics, particularly with respect to text. According to the New London Group, a pedagogy of multiliteracies presented a powerful redefinition of text and practices, moving the field from literacy to literacies through recognizing multiple ways of communicating and making meaning, including such modes as visual, audio, spatial, behavioral, and gestural. This concept came about to address the learning needs of students to allow them to navigate within these altered technological, cultural, and linguistically diverse communities. As a teacher in the 21st century, I am fully aware of the fact that multimedia and technology is drastically changing the modes and speed of how we communicate. There is a shift from text and speech to the inclusion of audio and images. Multiliteracies is an excellent way of teaching the 5 modes and how they are combined to make meaning in the multimodal text to enhance multiliteracies in the classroom. We live in a technological world, and we must acknowledge that we need to make our students literate in visual media. Elkins and Luke suggested that we do not value what adolescents find reading in the curriculum. It is crucial to find out what they like in order to reach them on an emotional and academic level. Create lessons that are relevant to their reality and the world they live in. As teachers, we need to foster partnership in learning. Oftentimes, we're afraid to change the way we teach because we lack the fundamentals of technology. Teachers, the use of technology goes far beyond using a projector. Our students live in the era where information is at their fingertips. They know far more than us. Hence, the reason for partnership. It is our job as teachers to make our lessons relevant to their interests and allow them to be active participants in their learning. According to Price Dennis, it is important for children to engage in the literacies in digital spaces that are connected to their identities, language practices, and culture. Digital literacy will provide students with a forum to voice their opinions while respecting the opinions of others. So what does this look like in the classroom? Culturally relevant and responsive pedagogy in the classroom. Create an inventory based on students' interests. Create lists based on anticipated outcomes. Ask students to provide favorite books to determine reading material. Ask students to provide their favorite sports team so you can provide group names. Ask students to provide their favorite subject to gain an understanding about how to integrate topics into a lesson. Include students' perspectives by offering them the opportunity to share their perspective on the topic through their cultural lens. See, students enjoy what makes sense to them. So we need to create activities where students interact with each other, use music, art, and drama to cater to a variety of learner needs. This is important for all subjects because it is through language and how students interact with each other that students truly learn. A perfect example of this is place-based writing. Esposito said, writing about places that matter in their lives, students explore personally relevant and real-world issues affecting their communities by creating print and multimodal text. Ferry bases his influential theory of literacy education on the need to make literacy a resource of fundamental social transformation. See, I may have not have become the pediatrician that I dreamt about, but I certainly have the power to help students. I have always been interested in teaching my students far more than just academics, but rather instill values within them to become decent human beings and productive contributors to society. I end with 2 things. First, according to Doerr, we must take the time to get to know our students and shape their pedagogy around relationships with them. Second, Dr. Mira said it best when she said, we must value young people as knowledge producers. We must not only teach them our methods or what we as educators perceive to be knowledge. Multiliteracies will provide students with an avenue to voice their opinions, particularly on what matters to them. We must leave the classroom every day knowing that we did not only impart academic knowledge, but that we did something to prepare our students for life. See, Dr. Kevin Maxwell said it right when he said, our job is to teach the students we have, not the ones that we would like to have, not the ones that we used to have, those that we have right now, all of them.